Welcome to the very first episode of Old Stand Obituary. This is a series where we're going to be going through YBA's old stands that are still remaining as they were, or very similar to how they were, before all of these massive reworks started to come out, and take a look at how they hold up, or more than likely how they don't hold up in the current state of the game. I decided to start this series off with something that's fresh on everybody's minds, and of course that is Sticky Fingers. As everyone knows by now, the Sticky Fingers rework has been in the works and should be coming out sometime. I'm not even going to attempt to say sometime soon, because we all know that isn't true. But regardless, seeing as Sticky Fingers is going to get reworked, and seeing as pretty much every single rework has turned a stand from being relatively mediocre to broken kills you in 3 hits, I think it would be prudent to take a look at what's going to be happening with Sticky Fingers. Now, before we talk about the stand itself, there were a few little housekeeping things that I wanted to get out of the way. First of all, this episode of Old Stand Obituary was sponsored by Vampire, because Vampire is the only reason that I did anything in this entire video, which probably tells you a lot of what I'm already about to say when it comes to Sticky Fingers. But seriously, I did about 80% damage with Vampire and 20% damage with Sticky Fingers. And that is probably a bit of a stretch, if I'm being honest. It might be more like 90-10. I don't know if this is because Vampire is still completely broken. I don't know if this is just because Sticky Fingers is that bad at getting damage. But regardless, point stands. Vampire carried the whole thing. And sometimes I figured while I was playing that I might as well title the video, I played Vampire plus a side of Sticky Fingers. Because, like, I don't know, man. There's not a whole lot of Sticky Fingers, but boy, was there a lot of Vampire. And the other thing that I felt like I absolutely had to mention was, good Lord Holy, are people terrible at this game. I don't know if it's just because the builds I was using before were kind of complex, or, I don't know, hard to get a grasp of for my little monkey brain because there's too many keybinds. So when I went to use something that didn't have that problem, I just absolutely cleaned house with most of the people I ran up against, or if I just got really unlucky, and the last few times that I've logged on, I've gone against competent opponents. But holy Jesus, do you guys suck. No wonder so many people complain to me about quote-unquote sweats in TCA. I think what it really is that TCA's general population doesn't suck major ass. Seriously, the people playing this game that I played against, almost all of them sucked major ass. They had no idea what they were doing. 90% of them were just trying to cheese, and then the second that cheese didn't work, it was over. They had no idea how to play the game. They just sat there mashing buttons on their keyboard. And if the buttons worked, wonderful. And if there's, dodging or counterplay involved, forget it. They crumble, and it's just a complete dumpster fire where they run away and wait for their cooldown so that way they can mash buttons and have them not work again. So yeah, those are the 2 things that I wanted to talk about before talking about Sticky Fingers itself. As for Sticky Fingers, well, I pretty much said almost all there is to say about it in my little intro, which paints a sort of small issue here, which is that Sticky Fingers is not a stand. And that's that in its current state, Sticky Fingers is more of a support for your spec than it is a stand itself. There are a lot of stands in the game, especially the post-rework ones, where they're massive and have a ton of moves, and the specs are massive and have a ton of moves, so you've basically got 2 stands. But this almost brought me back to old YBA in a sense, but on the flip side, rather than having a stand that was supported by its spec, this is a spec that was supported by its stand. Ironically, Sticky Fingers has a lot of options that just help your specs do better. And I almost hesitate to say this because the second I do, I'm gonna catch a whole lot of flack, but I actually had some fun with this. Yeah, I had fun playing YBA. And the only reason that I did was because the way I was playing reminded me of the way that it used to be before they screwed everything up. Wow. Just wow. Now let's talk about those utility moves, because the moves that Sticky Fingers do have, like I said, synergize very well with your specs, especially Vampire. The arm extension is 1000% the biggest thing here. Against competent players who apparently just don't exist in 1v1s, this move might get blocked. But fortunately, like I said earlier, everyone is horrendous, so it doesn't matter. Arm extension is great because it brings people right to you, stops people that constantly run away, which is literally every single player on 1v1s, while simultaneously being able to set you up into a variety of different things. Arm extension puts you at a very slight frame advantage where you can use moves and beat out your opponent. And this makes it so that way you can mix it up with basically anything you want. With certain things, it's a 50-50, and with other things, it's just, well, you're pretty much screwed. The most awesome thing that extension had going for it was being able to use it and then follow it up immediately with Bruford's Sword Slash. This move is a block-breaking stun, so it's a win no matter what. And unless the stand you're going up against has a frame 1 option or a counter, they're pretty much screwed if you manage to get them with arm extension and use this move. You hit them with arm extension, use the move, spin 180 degrees to turn it around, and bam, free damage just like that. Now, of course, that move isn't always available, so sometimes it's going to have to come down to using other moves. M1s are great because, you know, just free damage. And if you notice that the person isn't blocking after they're getting hit by these, or is letting go of block after getting hit once or twice, then you can throw in some other moves, like maybe, I don't know, Bloodsuck. So in general, arm extension is the best supporting move that Sticky Fingers has and really helps it. The second best on that list is your Zipper Punch itself. Zipper Punch is great because it makes the enemy take more damage, it slows them down, and unless they cancel it, there's not really a whole lot they can do about it. Now, like I said, most people are dumb, so if you just use extension, grab them, and then use Zipper Punch, it'll usually work. Smart players can M1 you fast enough to cancel it though. Thankfully, everyone who still plays this game is a moron, so they won't. Now, of course, you can just chuck out Zipper Punch raw because, well, there's not really a whole reason not to, and it's got a pretty big hitbox, so your odds of hitting it are pretty high. But the other big situation where Zipper Punch is helpful is after landing your counter and or Oblivion of Death. Because counter, Oblivion of Death, Space Ripper is all a true combo because the developers of this game are incompetent, you can use that, and while they're stunned and standing up, you can throw out a Zipper Punch, which again, unless they've got a frame 1 counter or another option like that, they're just gonna get hit here. There's not a whole lot they can do. And I mean, I've mentioned it a few times already, but the slowdown on Zipper Punch is incredibly helpful when it comes to people running away, which is, well, everybody. So when you combine the fact that you've got a slowdown on top of the fact that you can just yoink people and pull them straight to you, it alleviates that massive, really obviously annoying problem of people in 1v1s running away until they get their auto combo, going for it, and then running away again. You can force people to actually have to play the game. And if they have to play the game, they'll lose. Even if their stand has an objective stat advantage to yours, it doesn't matter. Because the only people left playing YBA fucking suck and don't know how to play the game. So this stand is genius. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Sticky Fingers might actually be good. And it's only good because it's particularly good at forcing terrible players to play the game normally and not just run in circles until they get an auto combo. Wow. Old stand obituary, more like old stand masterpiece. And they're gonna ruin this. They're gonna kill it and replace it with something that has 800 moves and kills you in one hit. Man, you know, back when I played this game, like, consistently, Sticky Fingers was one of those stands that was almost at the top of, like, needs a rework, goddamn needs it right now. And I can't believe that we've gotten to a point where it's basically flip script, and the rework is probably going to make everything less fun. But I mean, that's sort of the trend here, isn't it? Anyways, we're off topic, aren't we? We need to talk about the rest of what Sticky Fingers has. One of the things that I think is criminally underrated, and one of the things that I basically never used and really should have, was Zipper Glide. While this is active, you move faster than your opponent, which when coupled with being able to make your opponent slower, is obviously quite helpful. And when you use moves, it doesn't instantly cancel the move, which means that you can use your spec moves or your Zipper Punch. No matter what you use, you'll be A-okay. It doesn't have a super long cooldown either, so just generally speaking, this is really good. I kept forgetting I had it, and I barely have any moves to use. So, probably explains why I can't use the stands that have 800 moves, huh? Anyways, we've got one more move to talk about, and it's the only one that's just, well, bad. Zipper Uppercut is terrible. It's just, like, it's trash. But there's a caveat here. While Zipper Uppercut is absolutely trash and terrible, that doesn't really matter when everyone playing is total dog shit. Yeah, this is one of those moves that should never be landed. It's so unbelievably obvious that if you get hit by it, you have no excuse. And yet I was able to land it a few times. And I'll let you take a wild guess as to why. In an ideal world though, this move is hyper ass, and I don't even know how they put this kind of stuff in the game to begin with. Like, there were 2 moves like this. This stand had one, and so did Tusk Act 4. And both those moves, they looked at them and they were like, yeah, you know what? This is probably fine. I don't see any problems with this. It's like the most painfully obvious move in the world that if you get hit by, you should just give up an Alt F4. Yeah, this will probably help the kit. I can't believe it was worse. I can't believe both of them were worse. Actually, I don't even know. Can you, I just assumed you can't still parry this one. If you can still parry this one, I don't even know what to say. I'm working off the assumption that you can't, but I couldn't be bothered to check. So you'll have to let me know. If you can parry this, oh God, but I assume you can't. And the fact that you could before, again, you look at it and it's just like, wow, how did they think that would be all right? You know, age-old questions, right? Age-old questions. Anyways, I mean, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I've gone over all of the, like, 3 moves that Sticky Fingers has. The really funny thing about having so few moves is it also barely costs any points, so I was able to just absolutely blast the hell out of the vampire skill tree and buy a shitload of things that I probably otherwise never would have bought, so that worked out quite well. But yeah, I mean, Vampire was here to carry the day. I just sort of obliterated people, and I had a pretty good time. So while I went into this video expecting to want to jump out of my window, I actually had quite a bit of fun. If you're looking for something to play that's more reminiscent of before they butchered the game and ruined everything, then you might want to give this a go. I do think that it should be an eye-opener that the reason that combat and everything is in such a terrible place and why everything feels so awful to play now is due to the spec reworks, which we already knew that, but I know some people who don't know that and are still trying to bandage the game together in the awful state it's in. I don't know. I don't see that working in the next 3 million years. When your solution to keyboard Jenga and 800 auto combos is re-add startup to counters and make it so that way you can't use your time skip as much when you're using time stop stands, yeah, you might be looking in the wrong places, but I think I've said too much. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, then of course you can leave a like, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this series, and obviously, if you want to see more of it, which stands do you want to see? I'll probably do the same thing I did with Builder Bust, where I'll probably do the same thing with Builder Bust, where whatever the top rated comment that has a suggestion in, that's what I'll be doing. There are a fair few of those oldie stands left around, so let me know which ones you want me to take a look at. If you didn't enjoy the video and you thought it was shit and think that I'm a jackass for saying that all the people that I played against were god-awfully horrendous, which they were, then you can leave a dislike and leave a mean comment and tell me how much you hate me and how I'm a sellout and, you know, any of the other things that I've heard 1,000 times. And that's all. So have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.